As Richard Bestick just explained, a rising populist sentiment in the United Kingdom led to that Brexit vote. Surprise, surprise. Plus, as Richard Bestick said, that's a populist sentiment that also gave rise to Republican candidate Donald Trump and Democratic primary challenger Bernie Sanders. Now, here with me to discuss this, Afshin Malawi is a senior fellow in foreign policy at Johns Hopkins University, and Robert Moran is an expert in public opinion polling with Brunswick Insight. Gentlemen, nice to have both of you with us.
Thank you.
Afshin, we saw lots of anger, lots of disaffection this election season among many voters. They're upset with both political parties. They're upset with the way politics is conducted in this country, and they're looking for a new direction right now. Why?
You know, I think that to some extent, your correspondent in London touched on this the idea that there are establishment conspiracies, the idea that there is a cabal somewhere, puppet masters running the global economy. And I think this is actually very dangerous. And you pointed out it's both on the Republican side with Donald Trump and on the populist left with the Bernie Sanders challenge. There is a real challenge to this ideas of free trade that have really been, by and large, a benefit to the United States of America. The post-World War II international architecture has been constructed by the United States of America largely. And free trade, globalization, all of those have been net benefits for the United States. Now, there are always going to be winners and losers in the global economy. And what we're hearing is the scream of those who are losing, those who see a global economy, American economy, that favors coastal tech startups over Midwest manufacturers. And we haven't done enough in the United States to show those Midwest manufacturers, show those people who are losing from globalization that there is another path out.
Robert, we heard there may be conspiracies, as some people may think there are, but let's take a listen to Ron Paul. We interviewed him, we asked him why this country is so divided. Here's his opinion.
This class distinction and class fight is actually, the problem, but it's an economic consequence, but it's turned into racial and social conflicts, and that's why the people are so angry, and they're looking for scapegoats. For instance, well, it's the Chinese fault, it's the Mexicans' fault. Blame somebody else, but never our own policies, and it's our policies that give us trouble. Too much debt, too much spending, too much taxes, too much regulation. That's why we become non-competitive, and we can't say, well, it's somebody else's fault.
Well, Ron Paul appears to think that the problem is right here in the United States.
Yes, I mean, Ron Paul's view here is a libertarian critique of populism. Ron Paul is a populist. But this story goes back way back in time. You could go back to 1992 in the Pat Buchanan run, where Pat Buchanan ran in the Republican primaries as very much a populist conservative. He ran again in 1996 as a populist conservative, did quite well. And in many ways, he's a forerunner of the Trump phenomenon. Trade, which is a big issue in this election, is an interesting topic in and of itself. If you go back far enough, you'll see that the Republican Party was a protectionist party at the end of the Civil War, switched positions during the Cold War and the architecture period that you're talking about, and now we see the parties switching again during this populist revolt, where you see Republicans becoming anti-trade, and we're seeing that in exit polls right now today, protectionists and Democrats, especially younger Democrats, being pro-free trade. So a return to the 19th century to some regards. The challenge for the Republican Party is this. In 1992, 63% of the voters were non-college white voters, okay? Today that's 45%. So if populism gives Republicans a greater share of the non-college white vote, they're getting a larger share of a shrinking group. And mathematically, it does not help them in the 21st century. Sure, it might bail them out marginally, but long term, it's not a strategy.
Okay, we will have to see how populism affects the election outcome tonight.